Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Subscribe, like and share. So today we'll be making female trouser with flap. If you have been having issues with trouser today, you will not have issue with trouser after this easy way to cut and sew female trouser with flap. So in this tutorial, we'll be learning how to get your exact measurements. You don't need to add extra, you don't need to have undersized trousers. Your length is what, as you can see, the inside, the finishing is very neat. The flap, the waistband, everything is just looking so neat. So we will start by drafting the front pattern of the trouser, and the front pattern of the trouser is first we'll just draw out the line. First, to draw out the line, like I said, this line is ½ inch. You cannot do more than ½ inch. You can do more than ½ inch if you want, but this line is just like to give us where we'll start taking our measurement from. So now, how to get your crotch measurement, like that is your crotch depth, is your hip divided into 4. That is, if your hip is 42, your crotch depth should be 11. So now I'm drawing out my crotch measurement, and after doing that, I'll be after making my lines very clear, then I'll be going ahead to draw my new measurements, my full length. That is the full length of the trouser measurement. This will help you to know where to curve or where to stop or where to draw your curves from. So this is me drawing my new measurement. The length measurement you need is your new, but before that you add 1 inch. We added ½ inch towards the upper part of the trouser. By the side you add 1 inch. 1 inch will serve as the margin line. You will not cross that place, and that is, you will not cross the line. This line is serving as where your trouser side will start. So now the next thing to do is to draw your hip line, and your hip line is 2½ inch up from your crotch depth. Your crotch line, the first line we drew is your crotch line. So what you're not going to do, under your hip line, you divide your hip by 4 and mark the line. Then on the crotch line, what you're going to do is to divide your thigh measurement into 2, not 4. Other measurement is like the waist and the hip is 4, but this thigh measurement is divided by 2. So what you're going to do is that you're going to find that line for the hip. You're just going to go up, all the way up, and you go in by 1.2 or 1.1 or 1.3, but I'll be using 1.2 here. And you are seeing how I just curved the line from where the thigh measurement started to where I connected to the hip line, and then connected it to straight from the waistline. So what you're going to do now is that when you are measuring the waistline, you are starting from that line that you connected to the crotch line, not from the other way. When other way around, it's not like the other way around. So what you're going to do now is to divide your thigh by 2. When you divide it by 2, you mark the center. Like if your thigh is 10, you mark the center, which is 5, and you divide your knee, your ankle, the same 5, go down by the same 5 all the way. Then you will now draw a line. Like that line will serve as a division line. So that's what you're going to do. I'll be using my ruler or long ruler to do it. You can use your long ruler, your short ruler. Just connect the lines so that it will serve as your division line. After dividing your line, which is drawing this division line, you're going to be dividing your new measurements by 2. Your new measurement by 2, and you mark the edges. That is, if it's 10, 5 on this side, 5 on that side. Then what you're going to do is that this line now, you connect it to your crotch line. That is where your thigh measurement is. you connect it to your thigh measurement. You can even connect it to your hip line. It depends on how pointed your hip is. Then you're also going to do the same thing for the thigh, and you're also going to divide your ankle by two. That is if your ankle, that is where the trouser will stop, is 13. You divide into using the division line. So I'll be connecting these lines as I have divided them. I'll be connecting it, and we'll have a front trouser piece. Yes. Is this not easy? Like, this is supposed to be easy. This is meant to be easy. So I've gone ahead to place the front pattern to the back, to the fabric to cut the back pattern, and after tracing out my lines, I will just remove 1 inch from the front. I will not cut it out yet, so that I can use it to guide me to cut out the back first before I will cut this line out. So what I will do is to measure coming from the side of this trouser instead of coming from the center. After adding your waistline divided by 4, you add 3.5 inch. This 3.5 inches extra on the back is standard. You can add 4 if the person is big, but after doing that, what you're going to do is to connect this 3.5 inch line from the waistline to the former crotch line that you have throughout. Then you now, from the crotch line, you add extra 2.5 inch, but on the thigh and the new measurement, you add 2 inches only. You only add 2.5 inches on the crotch line. That's the only place you add 2.5 inch. Then you now connect this line down to your ankle line, and what you will do now is to come out by 1 and trace it back to the new crotch line for the back part only. As you can see, I went up by 1 inch, and I'll be cutting off that 1 inch that I removed from the front. I'll be cutting it out so that we can do our measurement, and you will see what we have been talking about. So now we're going to measure our hip. The hip I'm using for this is 47, 48. So what I'm going to do is, what I have, I'll be zooming it in so that you can see well. First, I have to measure the front. The front is 12 times 2, that is 24, and I'll be doing the back at 12. 14 times 2, that is 28. Yes, 28. So I'm going to write, sorry, it's 15, that is 30. Everything is 54 minus 48 is 6. This 6 is standard. 6.5 is standard. If after doing your measurement and you have anything less than 6, you can add towards the back crotch line. You can add towards the back crotch line, like the way you see me doing it. You can add to have extra. But if what you have is 6 upwards, then you're on the safer side. That means when you finish sewing your trouser, you will not have anything less. I don't know if this is understandable, but I think it's simple. So I'll be going ahead to cut my trouser and we'll be sewing it. So I've gone ahead to cut it out, both the front and the back, and the next thing to do is to join the back center. Join it first, and we'll be doing the flap. The next thing we'll be doing now will be the flap for the front first before we go ahead to join it. But if you're not doing flap, that you want to put zipper for the side or maybe at the back, you can join the necessary places and all. So now I've gone ahead to cut this thing. This is 2 inches by 8. That is the length of what I've cut out is 2 inches by 8. This one is 8 inches by 2 inches, and this is 4 inches folded into 2 by 8 inches. So it's folded into 2, and this one is not folded, and this one curved at the end. So I'll be going to the machine to show you how you will sew this to your flap. So the first thing to do is to open your trouser front to front. That is the front of this your trouser. Now this is a cashmere fabric. So if you don't look well, you will not know the front and the back. So what I'm going to be doing now is to sew on this first. So I will sew it as if I'm sewing to turn inside. That is, I will just sew. This one I'm sewing is not the one that is double. This one is the one that is single. I will just sew, and I'm measuring the zipper. You have to also measure the zipper so that you know you're not over sew or you're not under sew. So after doing that, I will interlocking my stitches, and I will now top stitch on the piece, not on your trouser, on the pieces, not on your trouser. Even watching this alone, you can understand what I really did there. Top stitching on the pieces, not on the trouser, not on the fabric for your main, in fact not on your main clothes. So this is me reducing. You can reduce this if you find out that later on that yours was longer. You can reduce this if you want, but you make sure that you give that curve that I did there. So what I'll be doing now is to do the zipper. I'll be fixing the zipper face down, that is, instead of face up, face down, and I'll be sewing on the left part of the zipper. But when you are sewing it, bring it very close to the line where you have top stitched. So I'll just run this straight, and after running it straight, you see what it looks like. There is something you need to note when you are sewing. Make sure that it's straight. I didn't pin it because I'm used to it, so definitely if I'm not used to this, pin so that you will get a straight seam. And as you can see, after sewing that, you now turn it to this way that I have turned mine now. As you can see now, the zipper is inside of the flap. So I've gone ahead to iron it out, and I'll be sewing 1.5 inches. Remember that what I did was 2.5 inches. So 1.5 inch, not on the zipper, on that pieces that you cut out, that you sew your zipper on. You're going to be using that as a like. So I'll be using that to all the way down. But when you're coming down towards this part, you sew it curve the way the pieces is, and you will raise one of the opening of the trouser. As you can see, raise one, the one that is outside of the flap, raise it up, because you're going to use that small thing that you raised up to sew the other part of the flap. So after doing that, so now it's time to sew the second part of this flap. These 2 inches, so these 2 inches, you place the other side of the zipper on the 2 inches at the edge, that is at the rough edge, because that's where you'll be sewing. So this is the rough edge, you have placed it on it, use the machine to secure it. Then this is the other part of the trouser. you fold in 2 inches inside and top stitch on it. That is, you are sewing at the same time that you are sewing on the front trouser. You're also sewing on the zipper. You're also sewing at the edge of the 2 inches folded underneath of it. I don't know if you understand it, but I pray you do. So as you can see, the 2 inches is under, the zipper is on top, and the trouser is folded on it, and they are sewing straight. So when you get to this place, do you see the reason why I say you should not sew on one of the zipper, and you top stitch on that? That will make it, like, that will hold it together without even stitching the trouser front together. So here I have gone ahead to, after doing the flap, hold that everything is now coupled together. That is the front and the back, except the middle of the back. I didn't join the middle of the back because I want to take my measurement and know what is remaining for me to do. So at this waistline, I'll be measuring my waistline, dividing it into two, because this right now, looking at it like this, is divided into two. So I will divide the waist by 2 and measure the number I have from the calculator. I'll measure it on the trouser I have. So here I realized that I have extra 1 inch remaining. Extra 1 inch remaining is very, very normal. It's very, very normal. So I don't know if you were expecting to have half an inch, okay, but I have 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is to use my chalk to mark the 1 inch. But when you are coming down, don't sew 1 inch towards the crotch depth. You will sew half an inch. It's a must. You must sew half an inch there. If you sew 1 inch, it's going to be tight on her. So now I've gone ahead to iron my band, the waistband. So what I'm going to be doing is I actually stayed the waistband, that's why it's strong. It's looking like as if it's thicker than the main fabric. So I've turned one side, and I'll be putting it one edge of the, and I'll be putting it inside. As you can see, I'll be putting it inside, and I'll be sewing on top. That is, I will sew first towards outside. I will sew from inside towards outside. After sewing it, put it inside and top stitch. This is what it's looking like after I was done doing that. And look at the flap. I also added extra button at the edge of my band, and the trouser, I have aimed the edge of the trouser, and everything is looking so well. So this was this trouser on my client, and it's looking so fitted. And thank you for watching. Thank you for watching to this point. Please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.